welcome to the Real Estate Marketing Podcast. My name is Jerome Lewis. I am your host for today. The Real Estate Marketing Podcast is a podcast where we talk marketing, tech, business, and leadership. We talk these things for real estate agents, real estate investors, and real estate entrepreneurs. The Real Estate Marketing Podcast is a podcast that has two purposes. Purpose number one, to educate and inform our audience and listeners. Purpose number two, Brett, to spotlight you, your business, or your service in a way that provides value to you, including market exposure and content creation. With that, we have very special guest, Brett Burkey. Brett started his internet marketing career in 2003 with SEO and paid search marketing. He currently runs the marketing arm for PaperStack, which we're going to learn about today. He is also the SEO professor at Full Sail University. Brett, thank you for coming to the show. I'm excited and glad to have you here.
Yeah, me too. This is cool. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Yep, absolutely. So, Brett, I'm excited to kind of interview. I want to hear about everything, but I was like a little bit excited because when I first got involved in like real estate, I started learning about like this notes thing, and I met a friend. His name was Scott, and he used to talk about paper stack all the time, like raving paper stack. I was like, I don't really know what that is. I know about notes, but I don't know much about that. So I just read your bio. Can you take us on a journey of how you got to paper stack and how that plays into what it is that you do now?
Yeah, so how I got into PaperStack was kind of just stumbling in at that's not stumbling into my one of my business partners, Rick, at a grocery store. I was at, it wasn't even my side of town. I was over there because my daughter's dance studio was over there, and he lived there, and um, I was wearing my daughter's backpack, and I went to college with him, so I was wearing her little froggy backpack, and he's like, "Nice backpack," and I was like, "Who do I know over here?" And it was him. And then so we just started chatting. He's like, "You're in tech, right? Marketing stuff." I was like, "Yeah." I was like, "Hey, why don't you come to my office tomorrow? I want to show you something." I said, "Okay." So then I just showed up, and he would kind of tell me what he was trying to do with the note space. He's like, "You need to make a platform. We were trying to figure out something to do. I just wanted you to see this, what you think, da da da." And so we had a good hour talk about that. And then I left and I did my own research on the note industry. And at this time it was 2014. Yeah. And I think like a year before, or like right around then, Obama was said to like all the big banks, "Look, I'm not going to be the president that defaults on the nation. You guys need to liquidate this stuff." And so what happened was there was a flood of notes that were coming. And at that time you could buy them for like nothing. Like you're talking like 10 cents on the dollar, 20 cents on the dollar. And so, I had been in marketing for, like I said, 2003, but hardest part I find with marketing sometimes is that I would do a really good job for people, and I'd help them build their business, but I never really had any ownership. There was a time, I tried to get ownership of one of my friends' companies, but he just couldn't do it because he had his own investors. And so, but I helped him build a good part of the marketing part, but it just always felt like, it almost felt like as a marketer, it was like, you did a great job. We love what you did. We appreciate it. And now we don't need you because we got everything. You did everything we need. So I was like, well, this is kind of ironic. I do a good job and then I get fired for doing a good job. So I was like, I was always looking for like create my own thing, and I was like, I could do this. But I also knew that a marketplace, which is what PaperStack would be in terms of marketing, is definitely one of the hardest because you have to have, it's like the chicken and egg. You got which one you get first, the sellers, the buyers, so I knew it was going to be really hard. But then, so I just thought about it and went home, and next day I showed back up at his office, and he's like, "Okay." And he's like, and I came in and I sat down, and he's like, "What's up?" And I was like, I want in. Yeah, whatever you're doing here, I want to be a part of it." And he's like, "Well, I can't pay you." And I was like, "I don't care. I don't care. I just I see it, I feel it. This is gonna be good." And so let's do it. And so then we did that for a little bit. I didn't really like because they came up with the name. They're like investors and stuff. The name was Investment Note Exchange, and I was like, "Did you guys even notice the note and the E on exchange?"
Oh, yeah.
This thing's 26 characters long, dude. So I mean, it was just like, so we tried to do some stuff with an outsourced team, and then we got back like just garbage. It was $30,000 down the drain. And so we were looking for another developer or somebody. So we were going around town, like talking to people. And then, it was funny, like Rick's like, I got this guy that's a family friend that, he grew up with my wife. I was like, is he a developer? He's like, yeah. I was like, let me see some of his code. And he showed me the site he built for him. And I was like, when did he build this site for you? He's like, 2009. I was like, this guy was pretty cutting edge for 2009. This was like jQuery when it was first coming out and a couple other things. I was like, I want to talk to him. And I just talked to him. And I basically he was going through the same thing as I was, but as a developer, like where, I'm like, dude, this is the opportunity. You can take it from ground up. You do whatever you want code wise, UI, UX, whatever you want to do. This is your chance to make something big. I literally remember I was just in a park pacing back and forth while my kids played. And he called Rick and said, I don't know what's up with that guy, but he's passionate about it. And so if he's that passionate about it, I think there might be something. And that was it. And so then we kind of scrapped the name. And so it was a joke. Paper Stack was a joke. It was like, what should we call it? We had an office full of beanbag chairs. And I was like, well, these paper stacks, because it was just piles of paper maker's boxes, because all notes and stuff. And they're like, oh, that's a good idea, paper stack. And we looked it up. The K was taken. I was like, take the K off, see what happens. And take the K off, and like, forget, that's it. Just do it. And that was it. Which is great because it's kind of an agnostic name. We can be paper stack for, auto loans, paper stack for mortgage debt, land, commercial. So it's not like commercial notes. It's just paper stack. So that was it. It took a while to kind of get off the ground because we were all kind of working on it like kind of on the side. Mike would have to go to work all day and code for whatever the company was called, and then come home at night and he'd code for hours. And kind of the same with me. It was kind of sucked for me because there was nothing to market. So like it's not like I'm going to sit out here and start doing marketing. But for the longest time, was just coming up with ideas and kind of brainstorming like features I'd want. Like one day I wish we had like a save search, or one day I wish I'm thinking of like automations and fun stuff back then. And so yeah, eventually we launched in 2017, and that was in September. And legit, we were at the airport drinking some coffee, and we scrapped the whole thing. So it was depressing. I was like, God dang, that was a whole year and a half of wasted time. So, but people weren't using it how we thought. And so then we decided to come up with a new concept of a to-do list, a timeline, and then get off the code base we were on before. God, I can't remember what it was called. It was Google. It wasn't Google's code base. Yeah, it was Google's. Oh crap! It doesn't matter. I started with an A. I forget what it is. But we switched over to the React, and we just have been building since. We officially really launched in 2018 at Node Expo, and went good for a while. People just didn't think it was possible. People thought. I remember legit someone telling me, like a big note investor, like, what you're doing is illegal. And I was like, is it illegal? I was kind of confused. I was like, I better figure out if I'm doing something illegal here. But then I looked it up. I was like, the Electronic Signature Act came into effect in like 2016, and the government uses it. If they're doing it, then I don't think it's illegal. And so like online notaries, they're like, oh, that can't be legal. I'm like, I think it's more secure. You got someone on video. Like I go sign a notary with somebody, they don't know that I actually was there. They could be signing on my behalf, So I was like, I think our stuff's more secure. And then we just kept growing and kind of just adding more stuff. And then really, when COVID kind of hit, people kind of realized, oh crap, I can't go to the bank, and I can't go get a notary. I can't, how am I going to keep my business afloat? Where do we go to do online closings? And then, we just started. Everyone had a really weird April, May, but then after that, it was like, okay. And then it's like, this is how you have to do it now. And then it's kind of when there's a marketing book, Habit Forming Products. And I get happy when I'm on a call with somebody, I see their browser, I see PaperStack, bookmarked. I'm like, perfect. It's a habit forming product now. So it's pretty much kind of the genesis of it.
Yeah. Nice. Thank you for sharing that. So what is like PaperStack? Like, what is it? Like, it's a website, it's a marketplace. Can you tell us like what PaperStack is and the benefits of using the platform?
Sure. So PaperStack is a place to buy and sell debt. So various types of debt. Started as just mortgage debt. Now it's land debt. We'll have commercial debt, multifamily debt, but you're buying debt of whatever. Seller finances a house, and they want to recapitalize real fast. They want to get their money back. They don't want to wait 30 years to collect, whatever, $300 a month. They want to, establish this, do they got the good deal on a deal where maybe they bought it for a good price, turned around and sold it for a higher. seller financed it. Now they want the money back. So they put on our site at like a 10 or 12% yield, which is what the buyer would get. And they sell it and go do it again. But how we're different is that we're not just like a listing site where people put this stuff up there and someone says they like it. There's not like a phone number to call and then everything turns into you're doing it the old way again. It's your first initial contact with them. You're in a timeline. You have basically like a walled garden. So it's you're not going through email and all this other stuff, but you can make phone calls and you can share documents. But everything we made it so easy for anybody that wants to buy a mortgage note. They can. I mean, we've had literally, it's a big realization was one time I was at a conference and a guy who had never bought a note before came up to me. He's like, dude, I love your site. The reason why is because I was doing a transaction when I realized who the seller was, because a lot of times the sellers will have like names like Jonathan or something like that. They're hiding behind until they get their investing profile, which is what they actually bought it as. And you're like, oh, that guy's, that's a big player. And so he realized he's like, oh crap. He's like, well, I just followed this to-do list. I can't screw up. He's like, and I bought a note from a big hedge fund. He was like, it was pretty cool that all I had to do was just follow your to-do list. And I was like, that's pretty cool. And at that same conference, like a hedge fund type guy came up to me. He's like, dude, I love your platform. He's like, I'm selling my notes for way more. I was like, explain. He's like, well, normally I got to sell it to the guy that's next down the waterfall because he gets how to do this. I can't sell to the retail guy because he doesn't know how to buy a note. But he's like, now that you've taught everyone just use the system, I can sell at the retail prices and I get another 10 to 15% on each note I sell. I'm like, okay, who would have figured? So it's a pretty cool process like that. Other features are, there's an escrow built in. So you as a buyer send your funds directly to our third-party escrow company, which will protect your funds. They sit safely in an escrow account while you're able to there's an audit conducted. And all those things kind of came about. The whole system came out of an actual issue that Rick and TJ had where they were just starting to get into the note space, and they were using friends and family money, and they sent $200,000 of friends and family money out, and then the guy just disappeared. And they're like eating dinner at their parents or mother-in-law's house, and they're like, oh my gosh, but they don't ask because I don't know where it's at, so they didn't know where the money was. And so eventually the guy came back, but that was like 2 weeks later. And they're like, dude, where have you been? He's like, I told you I put it in Box. And they're like, what the heck is Box? And he's like, Box. And you're like, Dropbox? No, Box. And so Box.com it's like a Dropbox. But they're like, okay, so their due diligence period was done. And what they got was all copies. One thing real is what's called a lost note affidavit, which just means that there's no note. It means it's lost. That's the only real part of the whole thing. And so that's when they were like, there has to be some systems in place. This is a killer investment class. You can make great returns, but this process it's very old boys club. Like you got to know who you're dealing with on the other side, because wiring $200,000 to complete strangers and hoping for the best is pretty dangerous. So that's what with PaperStack, you have an escrow where your funds are sitting there. They're not going anywhere until you get to see an audit that's done by a third-party collateral audit, and they'll look and say, hey, this is wet ink, or this is all copies, or this is whatever. And if you're as the buyer, you're like, you lied, or sometimes these sellers just don't know. They have thousands of notes that I didn't know was copies. And then so either you can adjust price, or if you're like, look, this is my first time, I don't really know how to do this, I'd like to just cancel this. You're within your rights to cancel. So we've really made it like some bumper lanes, if you're like in the terms of like bowling. It's like you can kind of get through it that way. And so besides that, everything's time stamped, which is a legal trail. So you can say if ever anything goes bad at this time on this date, this was said, and this is either factual or not. You can click and make a phone call, because we learned that the hard way, where someone actually, we told him that, at that point, everything was just text on there. And he called PaperStack and I answered, and he said, hey, I bought a note and I can't foreclose. I was like, okay, well, where did you ask? And he's like, yeah, of course I asked. And he said I could. I was like, well, then just let's go look at your timeline. Let's go see where you said it. And he's like, oh. I was like, what? He's like, yeah, I actually went outside the platform and called him. I was like, dude, I don't have a leg to stand on, man. It's like your word against his. I mean, that's why we say keep the stuff on the timeline, because it's a legal trail. Yeah. And so we were like, all right, so if people want to talk, we need to have a better way. So we integrate that we just click and our platform will connect you, transcribe it. That also helps if you're on like a team because we have team accounts and you're like, what'd they say? I think he said this. It's like, well, just click and listen to what he said, him, her, whatever. That's pretty much a lot of what it is. And
Okay.
where we're going is more, I think it's really interesting. Where we're going makes me excited to keep on the journey. We're doing enterprise. Um, you would have thought the big guys have like super duper software that does all this automated stuff, and no, they don't. They call. I got a phone call. We're at a conference in Tampa, and this guy called. He's like, you're Brett with PaperStack? I was like, yes, I am. He's like, who are you guys? I was like, and I tried to start explaining. He's like, I talked to 3 different people today, and I told them I was going to make a note platform, and all of them said, don't do it. Go to PaperStack. They've already done it. It's like, so who the heck are you guys? And then I was like talking to him, and I was like, so wait, you did how big are your trades? And he's like, $1 billion trades. I'm like,
Oh,
yeah. I was like, so wait, you guys don't have anything like some fancy software stuff? And they're like, no, spreadsheets and email, man. I was like, you gotta be kidding me. So then I was like, yeah, meet me in we went to Palm Beach, and I had them all sit down with me, all these different big players, and I said, I just want to hear you complain. Just complain as much. Tell me how bad your process sucks. And then so they did, and I was like, that's really bad because buying one note you can run into issues. Buying 100 or 200 or 300, you run into a lot of issues. And then one guy, I just couldn't believe it. I was like, he like shaking my head. I was like, he's like, I was like, so how do you track your process? He's like, I got a whiteboard with magnets on it, and as different notes move through, I have them in lines, and I move it to the next step, and then I know where things are at. And I was like, what if somebody bumps into your whiteboard? He's like, you gotta be in big trouble. I was like, that's just crazy. So we were
wow.
like, all right, we're doing this then. So we did a funding round, and so we raised money, and then we hopefully gonna that's being worked on right now. We have a sister company called Note Closings
Okay.
because people want it. They want their own paper stack, or they might have like a buyer or seller that they don't want them to know about paper stack because they might be like this. They might be the seller, and they're like, I want to use your software because it makes it easy, but I don't want them to know about your marketplace because they might find something better. Or the opposite, the buyer's like, look, I found this guy that has a seller finance note, but I don't want him to know about your marketplace because I'm buying it at 50 cents on the dollar or something like that. I don't want them to know about PaperStack. And we had other competitors that are like, they wanted to try to do it, or maybe they have some of their own stuff, but we're like, why don't you just have this? You're like, we'll create it for you. You just use it. We don't have to be competitors. There's enough room in the space. Just take this software, use it, make your stuff pretty, and eventually you can put your own branding on it, and you just run with it. So that's kind of the idea, is that kind of thinking more like, instead of being a bunch of different we're like the SAP, and you just use that type of software to run the business. And so that's the goal with that. And so there's that. There's no closings. Then we have enterprise, and then I have the meeting this week for doing some machine learning and AI stuff for transferring notes and stuff like that, because that's our bottleneck. And so if we get that right, that'll be quite a big deal. And after that, I think we can take a break and then just
Uh,
keep on it. So yeah.
never, it never stops. He said, after that, we can take a break. Nope. It's
No,
going to be
no,
more work. Yeah.
maybe a mobile
So,
app or something. I don't know.
yeah. So you talked about paper stack, and while you were talking, you mentioned, you said, right, like we come in as professionals and be like, oh, it's just this. So you mentioned paper stack is a place where we buy debt, where people buy debt. For people that don't understand the concept of buying debt, what would you say? Like, why would I buy debt? That sounds scary. Can you give us some insights on that? And
Sure.
yeah, like that, and then also talk about, like you mentioned, like mortgage notes. Help us understand what a mortgage note is, and kind of go from
Sure. So you got to start thinking at it at the bank level. So
there.
your audience being a lot of real estate investors, they might be doing the Burr method or something. They're going to get they have a line of credit or something like that, and they're only buying a house maybe 20% down, so they're financing the rest. So think of the note. You're establishing a note. Instead of you having to put a tenant in there, keep it up a little bit, and then rehab, rinse, repeat, whatever,
Hmm.
refinance, rinse, repeat. But we're already the bank, so you have to buy it straight out. So like you can't just finance it unless you have a line of credit, but you buy the note straight out, and now you are the bank. And so your options of what you can do are a little larger because if they default, you can work with them. You can either get them back on their feet. And so the thing that people need to realize, and this kind of sucks, is being a homeowner, but amortized debt, which means how these loans are structured, you really get hammered for the first 10 years. You're really paying like $20 to principal. It's like you look at it, you're like, okay, oh my gosh. That's why they talk about, oh, make another payment every year and you'll get it on principal. It's like, yeah. So I mean, but being on the opposite side of that, being the bank, you're like, sweet, I can establish this new note, and then I can collect the payments for, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 years, and then sell it for what I created it for. Because there's still so much meat on the back end of like another 30 years where someone can buy that as an investment, and it's, I wouldn't say nothing is guaranteed, but they're pretty safe in the sense of nobody wants to lose their home. I have kids, and I don't want to. I would do whatever I can to pay my mortgage. You know what I mean? It's like, but that's the other good thing is that unlike big banks where what was it 2008, whatever, everything where people were just numbers. They just toss them around they throw them on a stack. They're not gonna, oh, we're gonna refinance you or restructure your loan, and then they sell it off again, and you get it. So those people lost a lot of faith. When you're a single note buyer, which is your own money, or you only hold whatever, let's just say 50 to 100 of these things, you can talk to the people like people. You can say, actually, what happened? What happened? Why'd you default? They could say, well, I lost my job, whatever. And say, okay, what we can do is I can give you like 2 months, or if you want to, we can restructure your loan, and we'll wipe these couple months clean, and then we'll start you up at here. Do you think you can start up from there? A lot of people are like, thank you. They're not expecting that response. They're expecting, go hit the road. But if you treat them like a human, there's a whole like law of reciprocity. They're like, wow, thank you so much for doing that. But at the same time, it works for them, but it works for you because now you've restructured the loan. Like I just said, everything's in the front end. So then now you get this new note. So there's a lot of creative financing things you can do to, first off, help people that might have fallen on dire straits. There's also the fact that it's a pretty secure, investment vehicle. I mean, everything has risks, but it's it's a lot less than some other methods. And lastly, as a real estate investor, their toilet breaks, you're not going to fix it. This isn't a rental. Your toilet break. If your toilet breaks, you're not calling the bank and saying, "Hey, man, my toilet broke." Well, go find a plumber. They're not doing that. So there's not the whole tenant landlord type stuff. If you're looking on the chain of like where things are, it would be like a step above that. So you're acting as the bank, and then you might have people that are like, for example, we have a house right now, and it's here in Florida somewhere. And I'm just talking with a business partner. I was like, I just want somebody that's a real estate investor to buy it because I don't want to have to do the rehabs. I want somebody to think of that. I want them to do the rehab, or I want them to think of they can buy it and put a tenant in there because there was a tenant in there. And the way we think about things, if we're buying the house outright, is you look at what the rental rates are, and if you can give somebody a mortgage that's cheaper than a rental rate, that's a good selling proposition. Like, look, hey, rents in this area are only going to go up. It's $2,000 for rent for a 4-bedroom house in this area. It's $2,000. You have no ownership in it. They might raise it again next year. There's nothing you can do about it. You buy from us, we can put you in this. If you put 20% down to show that you have some faith in game, we'll put you at 17.5. That's way better. The good thing about it is you own it. So if you wanted to sell it in 10 years, you sell it. But you're the owner. It's and cheaper than what rent's going for. So to somebody who's like, that's not a bad idea. And a lot of people they're not bankable. Some people just might have had like foreclosure 5 years ago, or a lot of them are entrepreneurs. They're like, look, I make good money. We had one guy that he had like an 850 credit score, but he was an entrepreneur, and he's like, I had, a lot of times when you're an entrepreneur, you kind of like write off a lot of things. I mean, there's a lot of things you can do to make it look like you don't make a lot of money, but you actually make good money. And so he's like, yeah, sure. And he just did it like, that was like a no-brainer for a lot of people. Like, yeah, if I can get ownership of a house I just can't go down to Bank of America because I don't
Yes.
meet their buy box. I'm not that cookie cutter thing they're looking for. And so that's what you see a lot of people that just aren't bankable, but they're still good owners. It's just and that's what those are. Those are notes that are created, and those notes usually end up on paper stack. And then people that are buying are usually buying just like an income stream. They're like, look, if I can buy this at this discount, whatever, because usually notes are discounted because it's the time value of money, right? If I sold you something and then I wasn't and or no, wait, if I was to sell you a note and I had somebody in the property and they were paying me $300 a month and it would mature in 30 years, and I would get, let's just say whatever, like 300,000, right? If I could turn around and give you a good yield of like 12 to 13%, and you gave me 250 now, I'm taking the 250. Because I mean, it's like I don't want to wait 30 years. But the time value of money, what's that going to be like in 30 years? And who's to say, you know, why do I want? I mean, I want to turn that money faster. I want to get that money back, and turn that again, and turn that again, and turn it again. But some people are like, I just want to buy something and have the passive income. And that's what notes are really good at because they just get it. Okay, I'm going to get that. This is my yield. Um, Works. It's different than the stock market. Someone doesn't sneeze and then the thing drops by 50%. So it's like, it's very, unless something terrible happens. I mean, you know, even during the moratorium where we thought people were going to like really just stop, it wasn't as bad as people thought. It wasn't as bad because you were able to be flexible with them. You're able to like what what can you do? What can you work on? Maybe we can adjust maybe catch up in a couple months. Tell me when you have a job. Maybe we'll defer this. We'll put it on the back end. So you have a lot more creative financing options than somebody who's publicly funded. They're only looking at a lot of times bottom lines. I mean, no, it's not their fault. It's just that's the way those things are made. You know what I mean? So.
Yes.
Mhm.
Got it. So you mentioned like creative, and earlier you mentioned seller finance. So can you help us understand that concept and what that means?
Sure. So seller financing means you act on behalf of a bank. So I'll just take a perfect example. I bought that house in Mascot, so it's 157 for $157,000. We own it free clear. It's our house. So now we're gonna have somebody clean it out a little bit, but then we're gonna list it. And when we list it, it's gonna be for what's going in the area. We can back into numbers based off there's a calculator called a 10BII, but it's basically how you can put in like what's the terms, which just means how many months are they going to pay. Usually standard is 30-year mortgage, and that's 360 payments. Okay, 360 payments, and we're going to put it at 240. Okay, put it at 240, and we got to go under the amount of rent. What rent's 2,000? Like I said, we're going to put you at 17.5. Okay, you hit the yield, and you find out, okay, that's a 9.5% interest rate, which now it doesn't sound too crazy. 5 or 6 years ago, it's like, you crazy? But now you're like, that's not too bad. But so that's seller financing, meaning I'm acting as a bank, and I'm seller financing. I'm financing you. Like someone's buying the house, and I'm the bank. So now I'm the financer. And so that's seller financing, and creative financing is just finding different ways to help them out. Like they might say, I can only make a $1,500 a month payment. Well, okay, well, what does that put your interest rate at? And what am I gonna have to sell it to you for so that I can make these numbers work? And just making those adjustments like that. That's like understanding how to massage the numbers. That's creative financing, coming up with different ways. Maybe I'll sell this. Okay, maybe I'll sell it then, and I'll give you an 80-20. So like 80% senior mortgage and a 20% like junior mortgage. And I'm keeping that 20 because I'm going to keep that 20 for myself for long-term cash flow, and I'll sell that 80. And because I had to give them a little bit lower rate, I'll give a bit bigger discount because I still have back end cash flow still coming to me for the next 30 years on the second. So that's doing like creative, like basically juggling with the numbers. You're trying to figure out how can I make this deal work. So that's creative financing, and just those two go hand in hand. Like you use seller financing is the term that what you're doing, but sometimes working with the borrower, the person living in the house, you have to come up with some creative methods to make every party happy. Because there's a saying, and I didn't create this saying. It's this guy named Eddie Speed. He's like the grandfather of note investing. He's like, you can only bake a cake once, and so like you got to get it right the first time because you don't want to make something that's really crappy for the borrower or really hard to sell. So you got to be creative on how you create the structure of those things so that they can be put on. That's pretty much the gist of it.
Got it. So we met through like marketing.
That's right.
Essentially, you were offering like an educational product
Mhm.
for people that want to learn about notes or like getting involved in paper stack. So I would like you to talk about that, like what's in there, why you created it, how people can get educated and learn how to do some of these things, like buy notes, sell notes, and utilize the paper stack platform.
Yeah. So that was created mostly because Rick's really smart. Rick's, he's been in the industry. Rick's my business partner. He's the CEO of the company. He's the guy ran to a Publix, or grocery store, whatever. He's just a smart dude, and like he comes up with some stuff, and I was like, man, he's like, yeah, happens so often, and he's been doing real estate for 20 something years. I mean, he's done over I don't know how much. It's in the thousands. Like he's just really smart with it, and so I wanted people to know how to. So it was traded for two reasons. First off, we might have people come to the site and we give a lot of free information away on YouTube and stuff like that, and a podcast and guides and stuff. But we know that a lot of times, and you probably get it. I mean, if you ever created a course or something like that, you give it away. People are like, thanks, and they kind of like they might check it out. But
They don't act on it.
they don't act on it. You say, hey man, this is going to cost you $1,000. Then they have to think about it and be like, okay, either I'm going to do this or not. When they do that, they feel financially invested. So we were like, well, if we're going to do this, let's at least make some money. So we created that with the idea of explaining why it's a good niche to be in. What is a mortgage note? What is what's a mortgage? What's a note? What's the different types of security deeds? Like there's a mortgage, there's a deed, there's a land contract, there's a warranty deed. There's all these different ones. But why? Why is that the case? And so we want educated buyers. We want to expand the space. We want to expand the space, but it's kind of twofold. We want educated buyers because we work hard to get our sellers. So we don't want sellers being asked like questions that aren't the best. And so like that's like we want them to interact with people that know how to do due diligence, know how to know what to do. That whole idea. And I think if once we do that and people can get invested in it, it's not such a segue away from like real estate investing in general. That if they just took the time to learn it, it's just another tool in the tool belt. So you can still run the real estate play. Like if you were trying to take a house back, like someone was put a foreclosure on our site and it's got judgment. And so it's near the end. You can buy the note, but know how to do due diligence to make sure there's not back taxes or how much it's owed in back taxes. Is the title clear? So all those things are in the course. And then of course, there's a section on how to use PaperStack. And so, I mean, like these are the tips that I want everyone to know. Like if I just told everyone about it, like get a saved search. I know everyone's got a busy life. Just go there one time, put in what you want. And when that shows up, you get an email. That's it. I mean, I would just say if that's the only thing anybody ever does, I'm okay with that. Because then you know when something hits that meets your buy box, you'll know immediately. And that's how like all of our best deals get gobbled up. I'll be helping like a new seller and he's like, do you think this will sell? And I'm looking at him like, yeah, be ready. There's about to be a flood of questions coming your way because it's like 12.9% with 20% down. And it's like in the sweet spot of notes that we have like the 20 to 35, $40,000 range. People are just waiting for those. They're just, as soon as those things go, I've seen stuff like that I thought maybe wouldn't sell because I was like, I don't know, just land. It looks kind of weird to me. And they call me back that same day like, hey man, I'm in a closing already. I was like, you sold one of those? He's like, sold all of them. I was like, okay, somebody out there wants that. So we teach that in there, and we teach, a lot of people don't know. All right, I bought the note. What do I do now? Well, you probably want to have it with the servicer. You don't want to be breaking any laws of like reaching out to the borrower to present the house directly. Different types of insurances, the reason why you'd want to have that. And then we got a huge bonus section with like, just, a lot of times it's like all Rick's secrets of buying notes, like just really neat things he's done over time. calculators. If you want to broker notes, there's all the broker documents that non-circumvent, non-compete, non-disclose. I'm sorry, and then we have a like way you can present it, the calculators, the discounts from different servicers. We have we partner with other investors that are willing to do mentoring. Like we're not going to, us being a mentor and a platform would almost put us in the line of acting as a fiduciary, and that would be breaking the law because we don't have a Series 7. So we can't be teaching people like, hey, buy these notes and buy them here. It's like, that's a little too much. We can show you how to do it. We'll give you some notes to buy, but if you want somebody to help you, we got these couple people that will help you, and we don't take a dime from it. We just want to help you find somebody that's been in the industry for years that'd be willing to help you out. And that's pretty much it. I joined the group with you as I was looking for more affiliates, because my background was also, that's where I started with, you said SEO, but I also teach the paid search and affiliate marketing. So before I did a lot of affiliate marketing for years. And so I operated as the advertiser for a couple of products. So it's something I knew how to do. I haven't done it for a while, but I mean, my first product I did that with was I'm a musician. I don't know if you can kind of tell. I got all this stuff behind me, but yeah. And so so whatchamacallit, my buddy, I still talk to him all the time. His name's Greg Roulette. We ran into each other at a gosh, what was that thing called? It was old school. Like they were out of Atlanta. Man, Stompernet. That's like old school internet marketing stuff. And we just realized, we were talking about being musicians. And I was like, you know what? Musicians' marketing sucks. They're just terrible at it. I was like, my brother, he had a big old show, and I asked him afterwards, like, how are you gonna get people back? And he's like, I told him to come back. And I was like, they're not coming back, man. I was like, he's like, we had our CDs in the back. I was like, does your CD make announcements? I mean, like, I was like, what do you mean you got your CD in the back? I was like, gosh, you guys are terrible. So like, I was like, we should make a product, and we'll market it just to musicians so they can be better marketers, and then we'll see what happens. And so we did. It was called Band WP Themes, and it was like you could WordPress theme where they had all these things. You just put in your SoundCloud, you put in your this, put in your that, and your place you have your email. And we had a back end. I don't even know if they're around. Aweber back. I don't use it, but back in the day, Aweber was like the jam. It was like before like any, oh gosh, what's the one that Justin's all hot about? I forget which one it is, but I used to have it, but I don't use it anymore. We use MailChimp, but yeah. So we had all these different things, and then we throw it on ClickBank. And then it was nice steady income for a while. And then some other smarter guys saw us doing it and came with more money and
ripped it off.
Yeah, totally ripped us off. And so I did that. And I did a couple other products. And then I had an affiliate, like where I worked. I had an internet like guys that came from Silicon Valley, and they made a lot of money out there. And I was doing something for one of their sites, like they had a medical staffing thing, and I was doing a good job. And they called me and they're like, we want to make an internet marketing company. I was like, okay. And then I was like, okay, we want to take this public. I'm like, okay. And they're like, we want you to run it. I was like, can I build my own team? And they're like, you can build your own team. I was like, all right, then I want this much. They're like, done. I was like, shoot, dang, I should have asked for it. I was young though. I was like in my 20s. I was like, dang, man, that was dumb. I could have got way more than that. And so, but anyhow, I got, so I did that. But we had over 150 affiliate websites, but that was like the heyday of like internet marketing.
Yeah.
Where like, I had sites like dogtreats.net, and it was all, exact match domain crap. And I even had it even so sneaky, man, like I created the posts, and the navigation bar was actually like Google AdSense, but no one really knows because I'd have it all kind of blurred in. So I still to this day, I'm not allowed to I can't have a Google AdSense account. Like
oh, wow. Because of that?
Well, because of that and a couple other things. But
okay.
We're running that. So we were in the affiliate networks. And ironically, one of the guys that worked, my business partner, Greg, Eric Schechter, was like a couple years younger than us. And he wanted to learn, really how to do the affiliate marketing stuff. He was in Orlando, and he's now he's like one of the partners of Giddy Up Media. And they're like freaking huge, like really big. And so I just kudos to him, man. Like he actually stuck with it and took it somewhere. Because I remember when he first made Giddy Up Media, he tried to get me to switch over to Giddy Up, and I was like, bro, I already run all these same offers. What do I got to rip all my stuff out of? I can't remember the name of the places. But I was like, I'm not gonna rip it out of all these other things just to go with you, because it wasn't even like on a reel. I think it was on like I see it, not Cake or something like that. He had on like the back, like giddyup.cake.com. So it wasn't even like a real like network or whatever he had it on. I forgot. And so, but then they ended up growing it, and yeah, man, they're doing very well. So that's my background in the internet marketing space, and I kind of fell into that company. We're going public, but a lot of it was kind of didn't feel really good about it. Some of the stuff we owned candles.com, Wix.com. I had a candle warehouse. Freaking power went off. It was hot, Florida. I didn't go much. All melted candles, man. It was like so much money just down the drain. I saw, I just had so many problems, and I was young. I had like Team 15, starting to have panic attacks. We're going public on a pink sheet. I was looking at stuff, and it was like, it was all going to fall. I could see the writing was on the wall. And I was like, this is actually a crazy story. So, and if I deviate too much, just please let me know. So I was with Greg. We were out in affiliate summit out in Vegas, and we were flying back. I was like, dude, we got to get out of here, man. This thing's imploding. We're the scapegoat for this whole thing. It's coming down on my head, So, anything bad happens, it's all me. And so, and the big guys knew that. They kind of set it up in the way of the contract so it would all fall on me. And so Greg's like, okay, let's do something different. So Greg decided to start something new, and he left the company. And so eventually I was going to maybe leave as well. But I had said something to him in an email, and I sent it to his email at that company at that time. And I didn't know that all my emails had been forwarded to the big bosses. So the big bosses had all my email string of what me and Greg were saying, all this stuff. And they are very litigious. Their board is like, Morgan & Morgan was our board. It was a pretty big deal. And so luckily, I should send this girl a present every year. Like this girl, she's like, hey, Brett, they know about you and what you're doing. I was like, they do? And she's like, yeah. And I was like, well, when are we going to address this? And she's like, well, in the summer, they fly out of Florida, go back on their jets to wherever the heck they have like farms and stuff. And so probably before then, because they'll probably have it done before then. I was like, okay. And so just one day I came downstairs, we owned the building. And so we went to his office, and he's like, what's that? He threw it on the table. It was like a manila folder. I looked at it. I was like, man, I don't know what to say about that. He's like, all right, well, you're going to have to, we're going to sue Greg, and you're our main witness, and you're going to take Greg down. And I was like, I'm not doing it. He was like, well, if you don't join us, we're going to sue you too. I was like, okay. And he's like, give me that iPad. I was like, no, I won this on a company bet. He's like, yeah, but you won it on a company bet. It's on our time. And I was like, okay. You mind give me just a second just to clear the picture with my daughter? Because she was a newborn at this time, right? And he's like, fine. And so I was like, whoop, swipe, settings, down at the bottom, reset, boom, boom, wipe. And so as I was closing the iPad, the little white bars going across like that, like erasing the iPad. And I handed him back the iPad. He's like, all right, see you in court. I was like, okay, doke. Walk out the door. I called the hosting company, and I was like, make every single website go dark. Everything. Take them all off online. Take them all offline. Like, what? I was like, just do it. And then I was like sitting there at a Mexican restaurant, me and Greg, and we're sitting there. I was like, man, we're screwed. We're in big trouble. They're going to drag us through like discovery for years. Well, there goes our 30s. And so I get a phone call, and the guy goes, how'd you do it? I was like, how to do what? He's like, how'd you erase the iPad? I was like, oh, yeah, about that. I was like, I did it right in front of your face. You just weren't looking. And he's like, well, where's all the websites? I was like, yeah, about that too. You remember when you said set up websites? Well, you never told me where. So I figured, what the heck? I might as well put everything on my servers. So now you own all your data. So
Wow.
here's what's going to happen. You're going to have something legally written up that me and Greg, we walk away free and clear. I'll turn your website, I'll turn everything back onto you, and I will assign the server over to you. It's yours. But until that time, you're making no money. So you better make this fast. And so, dude, it was like next day, they're like, they were pissed, but they were like,
yeah,
respect. It was like kind of like,
yes,
I got you. And I was like, man, that was so yeah. And after that, ironically, Full Sail coming, which is a university, and they were like, do you want to be a professor? And I was like, of what? And they're like, SEO and paid search, because I met him at conferences, and nah, I don't want to be a professor. And I was like, I'm good. And then it was legit Greg who said, dude, you be like the professor of SEO. He's like, you know how cool that sounds? I was like, I guess that's it. It does sound kind of cool. So I was like, I'll
Nice.
come back. What's up with this? And so then it's like, I get to learn like, oh, for real? So then I get to interview like important SEO and paid search people. And I've had Justin Brook on there. It was one of my first ones. And I had the president of SEM Rush. And something that comes when you're like, hey, I'm calling from this university. I want to introduce you to students. People are like, all right.
Yeah,
You know
sounds
what I'm saying?
different. Yeah,
Yeah, it sounds different.
absolutely.
So I did that for a while. And then, and the thing is, it's one of those things where you get those people on the phone, you get to ask questions, but those questions a lot of times you want answers to. You're like, how do I do this with that? How do I do that with this?
Yeah,
Did it with Spy Foo. We had that, and it always worked real well. Where it's like, hey, look, I'm trying to introduce this tool to my students. I need to see how to use it, and they'd be like, oh, we'll just give you a login. I'm like, this is sweet. So like I'd get a login to like all these tools, and I just use it for all kinds of marketing stuff. So
nice. That's like a really good marketing strategy in itself, and that's one that I use. Like you bring value to people, you get with the right people, and they give you like other stuff. So I appreciate you mentioning that. Like, yeah, I want to show my students. Like I teach students. Like I have students. Like every week I get like 50 students, and sometimes I'll bring a guest in, and I'm like, hey, they want to learn this thing, and they'll give me a login or free stuff.
yeah,
And yeah, it's a
yeah,
really good way to like market yourself. So
yeah. I think
this has been excellent. We're at 2:52. We got 8 minutes. I
okay.
want to get like a few more questions or a few more things out of you. Maybe have you back in the future. I appreciate you spending time with us here today.
Sure.
I have a section that because we're in real estate, I call it the closing table, and these are like the last questions to close us out. So, first first question I have for you is like, how can someone add value, immediate value to you or your business?
Hmm. That's a good question. I mean, I did. This is one of them. I mean, being able
Okay.
to spread the word out there more.
Okay.
I'm in marketing and run a decent bit of traffic and different strategies, but I believe in word of mouth is the best marketing strategy. So as long as people can be out there, talking about it, that's probably one of the top ones where I still track to this day when I get phone calls. I still that's the only thing I don't give up.
Yeah.
Customer
Names.
service. Yeah, like I mean,
Yeah.
I gave away
Their
like
names.
someone else is doing the SEO, someone's doing the content marketing, someone's doing. I haven't let go of the paid search because I like it, but everything else I'm like, all right, you guys, everyone else can do this. But that's like, you answer the phone, I still do that, and people are like, is this Brett Burkey? I was like, yeah. I was like, you answer the phone? I was like, I answer the phone because this is the best marketing channel. I want to know what your problem is because your problem might
Yeah.
be our next feature. So yeah, word of mouth for me, being able to get the word out. Yeah, it was, and I always ask, where'd you find out about us? I stopped doing that when the guy said my Uber driver told me. I was like, all right, fine, I can't track this anymore. I don't know. I don't know how to.
Yeah.
Uber driver, Uber driver told you,
Uh,
okay. I don't know where that goes, what UTM that goes to, but okay, I don't have that one. So
yeah. How the next question, how can someone add long-term value to you or your business?
maybe it's just being able to make networking connections. Like if someone sees
Okay.
this and they say, hey, I know a guy that runs a fund. They're looking for somewhere to put their notes, or they're looking for different strategies or something like that. Like something that would bring like long-term value in terms of like a monetary, or I think
Okay.
this world's all built on relationships. You know what I mean?
Got you. I have a resource. So I do like all of my podcasts in one day, essentially. I have two resources. I'll probably email them to you too. But one is I have a partner. His name's George. He runs like a networking event. Commercial
Okay.
real estate investors always looking to invest their money, or I'm pretty sure they're creating notes. I don't understand it as technically as you do, but it happens every Wednesday at 12 p.m. It's a decent crowd that pops up on there. So I'll get you a link to that. And another, you ever heard of Advana IRA?
Oh yeah, 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 yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
they run a biweekly
Just the, yeah, yeah.
pitch, promote, and prosper. You ever heard of that?
Yeah, I think I did that years ago, but I don't know if the guy's still there. I want to say his name was Chris. I don't know if it's
Okay.
the same
Yeah, they
dude.
run that biweekly. There are some investors and some people there that are looking to deposit funds, or maybe they don't know what they're doing, and maybe they need to invest in notes instead of real estate. So those are two resources. I'll try to send you a link, but those are two resources for you. Um, Books. So one of the closing questions I like to ask is like, what are three books that you would recommend, and why would you recommend those books?
Oh, I mean, like, so matters. Okay, I'm gonna give three different books from different like.
Okay.
So like, being background marketing, cash advertising. I mean, if you got to read that, that's like doing
Yeah, that's a
push-ups.
must.
Yeah,
That's my favorite marketing book, like
yeah,
ever.
yeah.
Yeah,
Cash advertising, you got to do that. Like you got to do it like every couple years. You got to redo it again. It's like
yeah.
I
It's my
wish the
favorite
Edge Sports
marketing
one.
book.
There you go. Yeah, man. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So that one's really good. The Edge Sports one, I don't have. That thing's way expensive, so I just never got it. But I wish I did. I forget what that one's called. But that I would probably say the Psychology of Money. That just make. I mean, it's a good book. It's a rather new book, but it really breaks down just the way people think about money. You really can understand people based off that book. It's basically
okay,
it's kind of like people's love language or something. You read that book, you're like, all right, this person's one of those type of investors, or this is that type of person. For building a business, I like the doing the hard things by Ben. Oh my goodness. And then like what is that book called? He's a VC, but like it's basically the hard way is the easy way. The easy way is the hard way. Like if you conquer something massively hard to do, you're gonna have it easy from there. But if it's easy and everyone can do it, it's gonna be hard. So you're gonna have a lot of competition. It's kind of like that blue ocean, red ocean strategy. I mean, those are some of the books I like. Besides that, I mean, of course, you have to do the Rich Dad Poor Dads. I mean, I know anything mindset like that. And then I like, it sounds. I mean, Russell Brunson. I know those books are pretty much look like a coloring book because they're all written out in little stick figures. But him and
yeah,
Jim Edwards, Copywriting Secrets. Just matters what you're doing nowadays. People are all using Chat GPT for copy, and it's different. It's kind of like
yeah.
where are we at in this world? Like what's that going to do to copywriting? What's it going to do to is it just a tool on top of your copywriting? But like I think everyone should know how to do those things. Understand psychology of money, understand how money works. That's the most important. If you're going to be in the advertising game, how to talk to people into their advertising psychology, and then how to write to them in a way that they think they want it themselves. I don't have
Okay,
so much in the sense of we're a marketplace, so I leave the writing of copy to the sellers on the site, which sometimes it's not it's sometimes it's really good and sometimes it's just like nothing's there. I'm like, all right, well, whatever. And so then you're going to answer a
okay.
lot of questions. So yeah.
Makes sense. Thank you, Brett. This has been excellent. Please tell us how we can learn about more about you and PaperStack and anything else you think would be valuable to the readers.
Yeah, I mean, just paperstack.com without the K.
Okay.
That's a good place. And then academy.paperstack.com. But
Okay.
you can find that in the footer of our site. And then, I mean, we give a lot of stuff away on YouTube. So if you're just trying to get in the game, there's a whole introductory to notes, and it's taught by Rick, and he goes through all the basics that everyone asks. We know what people want to know because they ask us all the time. They're on our site as new investors. And we're like, this is a frequent question that keeps getting asked. Let's make a
Mhm.
video about it, so I can just direct them to that video.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So there's a lot of good videos on there. Between that, that's pretty much it. If you wanted to actually get started, say it's free to browse. We only make money when you close a deal, and just set up a safe search. And I would say if you've never done it before, look at first position performing mortgages with good pay history. That's your safe. That's your bumpers on the bowling thing. You start looking at non-performing notes that haven't paid in 6 or 7 years. You gotta have some more tools in your tool belt to know what you're doing.
Got
So
it. Brett, I appreciate you so much. This has been excellent. I'll reach out to you. I'll try to get those resources to you. And I appreciate you. I'll see you around in the Ad Skills community. And thank you for your time.
great. Yeah, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Bye bye.